That's amazing. Yeah, yeah, and I think that's important with anything, like be it African or Cuban. You go right to the root, and people who know and are practicing that, or people who have access to the real thing, and then come away with it. I mean, none of us who are, I mean, I wasn't born in Africa, but I'll play African rhythms because I've studied them, the Western African specifically, and then I'll translate them into everything else because I know their meaning to themselves in the orchestration. And then how could that work somewhere else? Changing sonorities, changing sounds, changing textures. But the idea, because basically it's a dance conversation, right? And
Exactly.
you're speaking a language that rhythmically anybody can understand. Now, if you change a tone, it doesn't change the meaning, but it changes the approach or what it sounds like, right? And it's like a canvas.
Yes, and that's a good point. You know, the colors of sonic colors,
Yeah.
and that's what we do. You know, just like reminded me of, you know, when a guy came, you know, we auditioning a painter and we're gonna pay him, and he comes in with a catalog of sounds and colors and, you know, and possibilities, and you go, wow, this guy is like, man. And then there's another guy that comes in with three colors. I go like, really? No. And so like, so that's what we do for a living. I mean, you know, and everything is a challenge. Like, you know, sometimes some artists are even more challenging than others. Like I always say, like with Lindsay, for example, he wanted, like in his show from 2007 to 2011, he wanted 13 drum sets. He wanted a drum set to be unique to each song. So I couldn't give him that with an acoustic drum set and percussion. So I had to have the Roland kit and created 13 different sounding drum sets for each specific songs. With Chicago, for example, Robert always on percussion, even on drum set, goes like, man, I'm looking for a groove here. Okay, so immediately I can hear boom, bah, boom, bah. He goes, yeah, but can you give me something I've never heard? That's what he likes to say. So like, okay, so I've heard timbales, I've heard congas, I've heard bongos, snare drums, yeah. I've heard bass drums. You know, after all, it's been 55 years with Chicago. But he's into like, can you give me a groove with some sounds that I've never heard? I don't need to know what they are. So that's challenging right there. You know, so
Yeah.
now it doesn't mean there cannot be a Cuban groove or a hip hop groove or whatever. But so that's another way of right now what's happening in the music that I've seen many, for example, Bantu African rhythms at the core that have gone to the Western world, to like say Martinique, Guadeloupe, Puerto Rico, Cuba. You know, the and then you put it on a drum machine with different sounds, and now it's reggaeton, or it's this, or it's that, and then they call it different names. But if you write it down at the core, it's basically you find like this before America was ever in existence.
Yeah.
Those rhythms existed, you know. So rhythms is very interesting things to learn the rhythm traditionally and then apply it with different sounds, you know, and it makes it, for me personally, is a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, some people are very, very strong and oppose it. You know, it's almost like a political party within the drum set community. You know,
Wow.
I'm a
Yeah.
traditionalist. I play snare drums and tune high. What is this low sounding snare drums that sound like a tom tom? Isn't that? But, you know, I'm more like possibilities, you know, like explore everything that you can explore. And I like to even do that with my own snares. I like versatile snares that within one gig, you know, between songs, I can crank the sucker and it's a piccolo. And from the ending of that song to the next one, I can lower it again. And it's a 1980s ballad. Same snare drum, put a muffler, do this, do that.
Sure.
So I'm always loving the open mindedness of, you know, why not?
Yeah.
Let's try it. A coat hanger instead of a drumstick. Yeah, let's see how it sounds. You know, you
Yeah,
know.
I totally agree with you, and that's, I mean, that's why, I mean, you're so successful, because you keep interested, and therefore interesting at the same time,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yes.
and that keep going. Yeah,
And like you said, you know, another subject that is happening right now, which is see, because technology has changed us all, of course. And right now you have on Instagram, and I actually, of course, recommend a lot of the young people. Before, we depended on an A&R person to dictate if it was good or not. You can put everything out right now on your Instagram, social media, WhatsApp, TikTok, Reels, Facebook, and that's your resume. That's your business card. And so you can actually load, even if you're young, you can actually, I know a lot of kids that have 250,000, they're viral. Now, there's a big difference from playing virtuosity from home, from your own room, playing on top of tunes that have already been recorded and grooved by a drummer for a reason. You know, for example, the other day I saw a very busy arrangement of Rock With You. Now, Rock With You, I still love that tune. Every time it comes on, whatever these guys, this rhythm section, Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson approved, like, this sounds amazing, and it was a big hit. There was reasons why. It was not because JR was spraying all over the tom-toms or doing a lot of drum fills. That was not the reason that tune made it. So like now you got like I heard this drummer spray all over the place. I mean, you know, like that tune. Oh, I'm going to use that as a click track to my chops. That guy, I'm sorry, wouldn't last 5 minutes with Michael Jackson. You know, I know that for a fact.
yeah,
Just look at the drummers that play with Michael Jackson:
of course.
JR, Ricky Lawson, Jonathan Moffett. You know, those guys were like grooving
Yeah,
Michael Jackson, not spraying all over the music of Michael Jackson. So what's happening right now that I've seen is there's a lot of young drummers that are showing off on their social media, but you know, some of them, the thing is, what is it that the purpose? What's your purpose? Are you making money staying in your room, just blasting all day and recording yourself in social media? Or do you want to play with a band and make music, record songs, not for the drumming, but, you know, use drum as a vehicle to make music, not use music as a vehicle to make drumming? So like, so me personally, unconsciously, I wanted to play, like I said at the beginning of this interview, I wanted to use drums as a vehicle to make the music that I love. I wanted to play with, and I achieved it. You know, I play with Santana and Steve Winwood, and now with Chicago. So those were the bands that I was loving in that time. But I loved their music. It's not like about the drums. Oh my
right.
God, listen to this drummer. It was listen to this song. You know, whether it was Yes or, you know, Osibisa or Santana or El Chicano or Blood, Sweat and Tears. I mean, all those bands, Stevie Wonder, Led Zeppelin. It was just like the song, Cream. So when I went into this business as a percussionist and as a drummer, I come in with my instrument, which is basically my forks and knives and cooking gear and everything. And my question is, how can I help you? What would you like? What are you envisioning? Oh, I got this ballad. It only needs a little 2 and 4 and a little cymbal. Oh, okay, I got that. It's a little salt and a little pepper. And another, oh my God, I got this 7/8 and 5/8 song. It's really progressive and has a drum solo at the end over the theme. Go, I got it. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? So basically, I'm here for you. It's not about me. It's for the artist. Same thing with Chicago. Same thing with Santana. Same thing. And they all are different and challengingly different. And so I come in, and that's why, you know, like when people go like, oh my God, your resume is like a mile long. But, you know, I didn't keep track, but it's just, you know, I've been making a living for, this is my 50th year since I started when I was 16 in Las Vegas playing with Debbie Reynolds, my first official professional job. 16 years old, and I'm 66. So it's been 50 years. I've gone through ups and downs, you know, divorces, illness, this, that, lost the house, bought another one. I mean, you know, whatever I have gone through my personal life and ups and downs, the music has always been there for me, that I can rely, that I can make a living. And sometimes it was just like, I remember back in the days in LA and Las Vegas, it was like, put a tuxedo on, go and play with the Philharmonic. Then the next day, take the tuxedo off, do drums lessons. And after that, play for a dancing studio. Then do a Persian gig at night. The next day is a salsa gig. Then I have a recording session or whatever it is. Then I go out on the road, Marilyn McCool, Ben Vereen. You come back into town. You're playing a jazz gig. You're playing a Latin gig. You're playing a casual, a wedding. You know, all of that is the music world. And I welcomed it all, and it's all related. And the relation to it all is, what can I do for you with my drums, and how I can elevate your music to where you're shining and happy. And that's basically what I've done for a long time. So I'm not a soloist, a famous virtuoso guy. I'm never signed up for that. I just like to just groove like we do at Cosa. You know, I remember the other day, I actually remember, because I was watching TV and I saw Liberty DeVito, and one of your sound checks at Cosa, Liberty was there with his drum set, and I was there, and we were sound checking, and very softly, he was on brushes and I was on brushes. We didn't want to disturb. And we were like just trading back and forth. There was no English spoken. It was only rhythms. And I've never seen Liberty DeVito do what he was doing then. He was just playing brushes and doing rhythms with the brushes really quietly. And I was playing it too. So we had a beautiful, memorable communication. That's when I realized this guy is beyond a drummer. This guy is like, he's listening and he's successfully communication through the language of drumming.
Yeah.
And that's why he is who he is. And, you know, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I mean, speaking of Liberty, I mean, he obviously had a lot to do with, you know, Billy Joel's music. I mean, when you create those parts, I mean, I asked him, I said, talk about the parts that you created in some of those songs that we all know so well. Like what made you play it a certain way, you know, because some of the things he did were a little weird, but beautiful. And, you know, what's that song? Don't go
Oh,
changing.
yeah. Don't go changing.
I said, and I asked him, I said,
I love you just the way you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Love you. I said, so what were you actually doing? You know, and it's simple, but to come up with that idea of turning the thing upside down was.
Well, you know, that's a perfect example of a song, what I call, and a lot of drummers don't realize it, because the whole thing goes into the guy's name. You know, you got Liberty DeVito, but when you actually analyze, you know, like he was like in the East Coast, you have influences, you're listening.
Of course.
So because you're listening to reggae, you're listening to Brazilian music. I mean, if you actually take that song, it can be totally reggae. You know, it's not the same thing as Liberty did. Trying to please me. Or it can be. In fact, I play that song totally Brazilian. Not the beat that he did, but totally Brazilian. So what Liberty did in that song is almost like half reggae, half, you know, like a little half samba.
Right? Yeah.
And the same thing when I hear Steve Gadd play the on the tom tom on 2 and 4, it sounds like a samba. You know, so a great drummer that you actually have gone through your 4-way coordination and all your rudiments, and now you can actually speak drumming. Now, by listening to styles, you get influence. Like Jeff Porcaro said, you can actually listen to the traditional and pick something that you can make kind of like and so like, you know, you actually, and I do that all the time, you know, with Chicago, Tris Imboden, which I love even before he was with Chicago with Kenny Loggins. Tris was an amazing drummer, and I he was there for 28 years.
And
with
you were
Chicago.
playing percussion in the band with him,
right?
Yeah.
And then Danny was there before all of us. But when I sit on the drum set, there's a lot of licks that are Tris and a lot of licks that are Danny. Because even though Tris took over Danny Seraphin, he was there for 28 years, so shit changes. And so like they did new tunes and new things, or Robert and Lee and Jimmy want to do the song that they composed a little different. So when I took over the show, it was taken over Tris's playing, which the last show that we had done before me was with Tris. So that's the starting point. I'm not gonna go over there and go, oh really? Oh, this shit is gonna change. I'm gonna change everything around. I'm here now. Oh, though that's the wrong attitude. I mean, you actually have to start where they left off, so everything's comfortable and silky and smooth, and nobody even notices. That's the ultimate. Like, we are gonna do our job. And it was just like when Tris was here. Of course, things are gonna change. Nobody's the same. The sound of the drums, the certain feels and all that. But still, I'm trying to beat Tris. And Tris was trying to beat Danny when he took over with Chicago, because that's who wrote the book.
Right.
I mean, if I'm going to play a Miles Davis, kind of blue, who do I have to listen to? Jimmy Cobb.
Jimmy Cobb, yeah.
I'm not going to be like listening to like Billy Cobham, like playing tom-toms, fills all over the place. That's not it. So if you're going to do this, you got to listen to the drummer that wrote the book. So like when I started with Chicago, like even now I played a fill. Oh, that's Danny Seraphin's fill. And then I played, like, for example, Beginnings. Those guys were very young when the song was cut. And so like even Danny in 1974 didn't play Beginnings as busy as when he recorded it. Because I saw Chicago in 1974 in Las Vegas. And he has matured. And later on, he even matured more in the 80s. And so like then Tris takes over and he plays it a little more like in the pocket, not as many tom-tom fills. But because the song is what it is, you still have to add the essence of the fills and stuff like that. And then there's the famous pa, boom, pa, dum, 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 in the middle of the song with the bass player filling. And so, I play the vocabulary of the two predecessors. And just like I did with Santana, it was Michael Shreves and Undugu and Graham Lear before me. And with Steve Winwood, it was Jim Capaldi, Jim Gordon, George Hawkins, and all the, and that's it. It was Traffic and Steve Winwood. And those are the drummers before me that I have to honor, and respect. And basically, if I change anything, it has to be with a request, or if I try something and they like it, they say, man, keep that in. I love that. Okay. If I do something and they go, I don't know about that, it's gone. So that's basically, the work ethic of, I realize that sometimes I talk about some of these things to a lot of the drummers, students of mine, and they don't understand the work ethic that I've been just talking about right now, but they want to work. So it's like, okay, wait a second, so like, just because I can cook at home really good, I'm not in the restaurant business.
Right.
I don't own a restaurant. That's a whole other world, competing with other restaurants and be successful as a restaurant owner. I can cook. I'm not a chef in a restaurant that is successful. So the question out there is, do you just want to be a cook at home, or do you want to get into the restaurant business and cook successfully and have some great dishes, some original dishes, please the people, get a 5-star rating, and make money. So like that is parallel with drumming. You're either a working drummer making a living out of playing drums, or you just love playing drums, which is very healthy. And I think that everybody should play music, for kids, whether you become, I have students that are doctors, business people. I mean, that they're not professional drummers, but they just play for fun on the side. But you still have to have the work ethic to give the people. If you're playing in church, you're still working for people.
That's right. That's right. I mean, there's
You're working for the Lord. I mean, but what do you want to do? Show off, or you want to play music for the Lord and have your mates and the audience lift them in spirit? Because if it's just about you, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Stay at home and show off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Unless you're doing your own thing and you're the center of attraction, and everything's built around you, and that's fine too, right? I mean, you write the music.
That's what happens. Yes, and that's a very good point. And I remember my dad told me one time. I said, "Hey, Dad, like Buddy Rich, the best drummer in the world." He goes, and my dad said, and honestly enough, I didn't even know what he meant back then. Well, it all depends who you ask, because like if Buddy Rich was the best drummer in the world, he wouldn't come out of the studios all day long recording movie soundtracks and tunes and this and that. And in those days, Shelly Manne was recording in LA, and there was other people recording in New York City, and they were using drummers that were recording drummers for the music. But a drummer that shines virtuosity eventually has to get a band. And it happens, the Dave Weckl, it happens, you have to have a band that plays the music to make your drumming shine, because that's what you're known for, and that's what people are paying for. They want to see Buddy go ba 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 ba. Wow, I got my money's worth. Then of course that doesn't mean that he's not a great musician and he doesn't drive the band, and he has recorded amazing things on the side without him being featured. Because I've heard him. I mean, even in brushes.
Oh yeah.
Who's that? That's Buddy Rich. What? Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. But eventually you're right. Like certain. So that's why I actually had a choice actually to early on with my Cuban family name, my grandfather and my mother's side. Like, man, I could have just moved to Miami and started Walfredo Reyes Cuban Orchestra and stay with the tradition, and the audience was there already. That I decided to trespass unknown territories, and I wanted to play jazz, I wanted to play rock, I wanted to play funk, I wanted to play with the funk bands, I wanted to play stuff that didn't have Jose Marti on the dollar, that it had George Washington. And so and so for that I need to know that culture, those cultures. And that doesn't mean that I don't love my culture, but I love like all the world cultures.
Yeah. And to finalize that, it's all about being universal. That's a lot more fun, I think. I mean, I speak 4 languages, and I could never understand why somebody didn't speak more than one language, just because you can travel easier, you can go all over the world, you can communicate. But we have one language that is like everybody on the planet understands. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, that's a very good point. And actually, that's actually, I really love that, because that's what it is. It's to speak the languages, once you actually speak the language of drumming and music, to be able to travel within that world.
Yeah.
To actually be able to speak, like right now we're communicating in English. I speak Spanish too. I don't speak 4 languages, but it's the same thing as we were talking before, as far as the different groups. We got 5 root languages, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, French, and Romanian, with the same Latin root. And so if I know Spanish, why not like dig into the other one? So basically you got the 6/8 right there. Oh, ñañigo, Awakwa,
exactly.
Joropo, waltz, jazz 6/8, jazz waltz, blues. And so, you know, you got like the different families, and whatever you can gather information to make your reality more successful, and you're happier, because it is about happiness and fulfillment. I mean, you know, when you finish something, music, as you know, like so much preparation and so much work, and like Lee says in our show, he says, we just work 22 hours to have fun for two, you know. Have fun for 2 hours, and then you're working 22, hours, and so you all this work and studying, and to actually, it's like the runner go to the track, you got the 100-meter relay, it finishes in a few seconds, but you've been doing it all year round for that moment.
Yes.
So like that's the fulfillment of performance in front of people and recording. Then you sit down, and sometimes I have a thing on my phone that I don't even know what I have it on, but it just starts putting out stuff from the past. Some of it I remember, some of it I go, what is this? And I look, and oh my God, that's something I did, like I haven't heard in 20 years. So it's like really fulfilling to actually realize where you were at, and if it sounds really good and you're proud of it, it's really like a really beautiful feeling. And I can see very easy myself with that playlist of all the stuff that I've done in my life. And when I'm in my deathbed, I'll probably tell the nurse, hey, can you play that list?
No, but in the meantime, though, Wally, you've
Crank
had
it up.
Yeah, no. In the meantime, though, you have the pleasure of having had, in that whole path, influencing, inspiring all of those people, while you're getting your own satisfaction for what you've done, but also seeing that you're really inspiring and helping other people and bringing it to the table. I think, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm also reading about what you're saying. I mean, it's not just about us or you. It's about you've put it out there. Now somebody else, you enjoyed it because you created it, but they enjoyed it because it brought them to a point where they can take it from there, and it gives them a solid ground.
Well, thank you. I mean, I do that literally all day. I mean, luckily in my social media, I got about 98% of people that really enjoy it. And they ask me questions right there on the post. What kind of snare is that? And I tell them,
Nice.
What kind of hi-hats are those? Tell them, like, how can I do this? Well, try this and this. So I've never said no to nobody. The other 2% is the negative trolls and hate that happens because we're humans, definitely not perfect humans. Nobody